My name is Jessica Buchanan, and in October of 2011, I was kidnapped and held hostage in the Somali desert for 93 days. I wanted to teach abroad, so I worked in northern Uganda, South Sudan. Galkayo, it was a whole other security animal, if you will.
Somalian kidnappers were going after hostages.
A very angry looking man, he's got an AK-47, and he starts screaming, "Drive, drive!" And all of a sudden, my whole body just goes cold.
Suddenly I get this call, Jess has been kidnapped, and my first reaction was just screaming in the phone.
It looks like they have knives attached to the ends of their guns, and all I can think is that they're gonna cut my head off.
First ransom video came a little over a month into captivity.
I just remember thinking, what if she doesn't come back and I'm really not gonna see her again?
Because it was a sensitive operation, we wanted her very best. SEAL Team 6 is the team.
All we know is that we have a female hostage. That's that moment. There's no more rehearsal. This is game on now, and off we go. This is what we do.
The night erupts into gunfire. I'm just saying, oh God, oh God, oh God. I was pursuing an education degree, and I knew that I wanted to teach abroad. I ended up getting a student teaching position at an international school in Nairobi, Kenya. I think living in Nairobi was seriously one of the best times of my life. I would stop sometimes and look around and think, I'm just this girl from Southern Ohio. I grew up in the middle of a cornfield, and here I am. I was just really, really happy. I guess it was 2007. I had gone out with two friends, and I find myself alone in this nightclub. I see this guy across the dance floor, and he kind of looks up at me and makes eye contact. And I quickly realize, oh, this guy is a terrible dancer.
I saw this beautiful woman standing there. She waved me over.
So we dated for about 1.5 years, and a lot of it was long distance. I still had my job in Nairobi, and Eric had taken a job where he was based more in Somaliland, in the northern part of Somalia, and traveling around. It was hard to be long distance. So we decided to get married.
It was just a beautiful weekend and on the Kenyan coast, and I felt like I was the luckiest man alive to marry this strong, beautiful woman. Shortly after that, she took a pause in her teaching career and moved up to Hargeisa, where I lived. It's a city of roughly 500,000 people, and it's a bit of a safer zone there compared to many other parts of the country.
Security was in the forefront of people's minds in Hargeisa, but you learned how to adapt. You were always with an armed guard, so I didn't ever feel unsafe. Word got out that there was a teacher in town, and so I was approached to do some consultancies for organizations for the UN. I ended up writing mine risk education curriculum, working in the areas of community safety and armed violence reduction. It ended up just turning into a full-time job. I had moved into a role where I was a regional education advisor, so I traveled around. I worked in northern Uganda, South Sudan. I went to lots of project offices all over the place. Galkayo, Somalia, where we had a project office. Galkayo was a whole other security animal, if you will. I felt that the dangers in a place like Galkayo would be maybe getting caught in crossfire if you were downtown, or maybe explosions, terrorist attacks. You know, it's closer to Mogadishu, Al-Shabaab. I didn't particularly want to go there. I felt like we should bring the Somali staff up to Hargeisa because that was safest for everybody.
Galkayo was at the time a divided city where two big clans, so to say, have strong positions. In this part of the country, it was a lot of lawlessness.
Why would I go to a place where something like that is happening? I called Paul, who is the project manager in the Galkayo office. He said, you really need to get down here and train the staff on this new curriculum. I felt pressured, for sure. And I was worried that I was going to lose my job. So I got on a UN plane a week later, flew down to Galkayo. We were in the northern part of Galkayo. Galkayo is divided by this invisible line, the green line, and it's two separate clans on either side. And so in order to cross over that line, you have to switch to vehicles and convoys that are controlled by that particular clan. I made it over to the green line safely, and we'd gone to the south office, done our training. And we pull out of the gates of the compound and start driving through the city of Galkayo, and I send Eric a text message. I say I had thought I was pregnant. I was hoping that I could be pregnant at the time. And we had decided to start trying for a family, but I started feeling cramping, and I thought, it's not this time. He wrote back and said, yeah, but we have our whole lives. And I'm not sure if it was at this point or at some point there was a text exchange where I said, if I get kidnapped by pirates, will you come and save me? He said something about, take good care of yourself and stay safe.
You just hope that you will get that message to say everything fine, but yeah, that didn't come.
There are 3 Land Cruisers. We're driving for about 10 minutes, and then suddenly we come to a really abrupt halt. I start hearing screaming, like angry men yelling in Somali and banging the butts of AK-47s. They're being slammed on the car hood. And a very angry looking man, he's got a gun to my head, and he starts screaming at the driver. He screams at him in English, drive, drive, drive. At one point, Paul turns around to, I think, check on me, and I whisper to him, what is happening? And I will never forget the look on his face was just like pity, because he realizes I don't understand what's happening yet. And he whispers back, we're being kidnapped. We drive for hours. I'm trying to figure out who these people are and what they want. We're in Somalia. Is this Al-Shabaab? Are these Islamic terrorists? Are they gangsters? Are they militia? I am an American woman. My passport is in the back. I'm dead. And before they kill me, they're going to do terrible things to me.
My name is Matt Espinshade. I was an FBI special agent for 24 years. We had good relationship with the United Nations security forces in Somalia. Agents had heard that there was an attack on an NGO convoy and that there was potentially a kidnapped victim or maybe more than one. When I recognized that there was an American, Jessica Buchanan, and she was living in Somalia and that this could be true, of course my heart dropped.
Somalian kidnappers were going after hostages of one kind or another, and particularly conducting piracy against ships off of Somalia. The whole Captain Phillips occurrence developed during that period when Somali pirates would actually go out and try to capture ships and then hold them for ransom. And they were doing the same thing with individuals that they would take hostage.
There was little law and order in many of the areas of Somalia, and so this was a way to make money. Al-Shabaab is an Al-Qaeda-related terrorism organization that's been fighting in Somalia for decades. It's important for us right away to find out what type of group has kidnapped her, because it would make the difference as to whether she was going to be seen as some type of commodity for a ransom, or if it was Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab, if they would have their hands on a Westerner, the risk would be primarily taking their life.
I'm thinking about the last conversation I had with Eric about not wanting to go on this trip and knowing that something was going to happen. And here I am.
I was doing my daily workout and suddenly I get this call. Jess has been kidnapped and we don't know who has taken her. We don't know where she is. My first reaction was just screaming in the phone, "What do you mean? that she can't be kidnapped?"
My dad called me at my desk and he said, "You need to sit down." I started trembling and just shaking because I could just hear in his voice that something was really wrong. He sounded really angry and he said Jess was kidnapped and we don't know where she is and we don't know if she's okay.
We stop and everybody piles out of the car. So we start walking into this just black abyss. I mean, you can't see anything. There are no stars. There's nothing. I can just hear them talking. I can hear the chains of ammunition clinking. It looks like they have knives attached to the ends of their guns, and all I can think is that they're gonna cut my head off. And so I say goodbye to Eric. I say goodbye to my dad and my sister, my brother. And I call out to my mom. She'd been gone for about a year. And I ask her to help me be strong. For some reason, it matters to me that I don't beg. Like, help me be dignified. I don't want my last moments on earth to be begging and to be undignified. I want to be in control. I want to be strong. And I ask her to wait for me on the other side because I'm really scared to die. Like, you wonder, how long is it going to take? And is it going to hurt? Finally, we're ordered to stop and to get down on our knees. And I'm just waiting for my head to come off of my body. I don't know what I did to deserve this. I don't know what I did wrong. I came here to help. I'm no threat. And then one of them just says, "Sleep." And I look at Paul and it's like, am I hearing this right? Like, they just want us to lay down and go to sleep. And we both just collapse onto the ground and we don't move. I think I slept and I woke up a few hours later. It was starting to get light out and I could start to see around me, and I realized, like, that wasn't the worst, most realistic nightmare. Like, that I've like woken up in my own personal hell. There are just armed men everywhere. Paul is laying next to me and he hasn't slept. He's been listening all night long, trying to figure out who has us, what's happening. So he was like, they're calling somebody in the UK. And that was actually really disheartening because it was like, oh, okay. This isn't just a group of bandits who seized an opportunity. This is well organized and well thought out and executed.
The FBI came to the house. I think once I saw that they were involved, I thought, okay, they'll figure this out. This is the FBI, you know? They have to figure this out. That's what they do.
In cases of kidnapping, the FBI provides consultation, negotiation. The actual ransom would be the responsibility of the affected individual's family or company or employer.
We were always moving, and it felt like we were being chased. It felt like it was very urgent. I kept hearing them talk about American. And finally, the communicator comes in and he introduces himself. His name is Jabril. He speaks decent English, and he brings me a Sprite and says, these men are crazy. These men are crazy. They think you're a ship. They want $45 million for you. And I'm just like, can this get any worse? I'm like trying to explain to him, it doesn't work like that in America. This is a crime. Like, you're not going to get $45 million for me. Like, they didn't have any idea. It was just some arbitrary number that we were gonna die for. We have to wait for, I think, at least a week before we make our first point of contact, our first proof of life call. They kept saying we needed to wait because a communicator was coming. Jabril gives me the phone and tells me to call my husband. I dial Eric's number, but I can't get through. It's disconnected. I call my dad and my sister, and both of their phones are disconnected. Paul starts to put it together and says, I bet this is on purpose. I bet they want just one point of contact.
Proof of life calls are important during the course of a negotiation. One of the hardest things to do in a kidnapping is to organize the effort of who's receiving the ransom calls. And if multiple people are talking into the situation, it becomes chaotic, and that puts the negotiation at risk. The FBI and the employer worked together to come up with that plan of who was going to be directed to do the negotiation, and communicated that plan to both the family and others.
Jabril has a phone number and he dials it. A man identifying himself as Mohammed picks up and explains that he is our family communicator and that all contact will go through him from now on. I think making that call made us feel a whole lot of things. I mean, there was hope in the fact that we had actually made contact, but we didn't know who this Mohammed was. We didn't know if we could trust him. It was also the first peek into the reality of we're in this for the long haul.
My name's Justin Sheffield. I used to be at SEAL Team 6. I've done hundreds and hundreds of missions that are just straight combat. It's us versus the enemy. This hostage rescue is just, it was our #1 mission. It's why the command dev group SEAL Team 6 was created back in 1980, coming out of the Iran hostage situation that happened in '79, I believe. We needed a counterterrorism unit. We had gotten notified as a group that there was a proof of life call And, I turned it up on the speakers on my computer. Everybody gathered around and we're listening to her. This woman crying for her life, saying she thinks she's gonna die. They're talking about negotiations and money, which was ridiculous to me, to be quite honest with you, that we were even talking about paying some kind of a ransom.
There were a few different scenarios that could lead to a military rescue.
The first thing, and most importantly, was the health of those that were kidnapped, of the victims. The other thing is if negotiations would just break down and we went long periods of time without having proof of life. And then the third thing would be if there was a chance that she would be sold to Al-Shabaab.
All of us, we couldn't help. Guys have daughters, guys have wives and sisters and mothers, and we're like, oh my gosh, dude, we've got to go get her.
Time is something that starts to lose any kind of concept. Your days run into the nights and your nights run into the days. We're living out in the desert. We were never taken to a house. We were never taken to any kind of shelter or structure. We didn't even have a tent or a tarp. We're just out in the elements. We played games. We would play like the basic tic-tac-toe. There was goat poop everywhere, so they dry and make little pellets, and you can make little drawings out of them, or like little artwork, and play games. We did math games. We were so dependent on each other in a way that neither one of us had ever had to depend on another human being before in our lives. But then one afternoon, Paul discloses some information to me that really changed the course of the rest of the kidnapping for me. We were sitting there not really doing much, and Paul gets really honest with me, and he reveals to me that there had actually been rumors of a direct kidnapping threat in Galkayo.
They had not been seen as viable by the leadership at the time.
To know that he actually had the knowledge, that was definitely a very defining moment in the captivity for me. I was hurt on a personal level, and I was too tired to be angry. And I knew I needed to reserve that energy to stay alive and to keep my wits about me.
A few weeks into the kidnapping, we received word that one of the local TV networks had been granted to send in a team to interview Jess and Paul.
Paul and myself, Jessica, your grad life.
At the time, I was together with Jess' family, who were in Nairobi with me.
It's important to have no context,
For me, it was very positive because she looked very, very thin, but she was still standing up. She was out in the desert. She was not in a corner of a room or on a boat. For Jess' sister, it was tougher.
I just felt so angry when I saw it. Her face was really red. Her skin was really irritated. Her eyes were swollen. And there's a man behind her with a gun to her head. And I think that was probably one of the most defining moments for me. I just remember standing in the kitchen thinking, what if she doesn't come back and I'm really not going to see her again? And it just felt so unfair.
We saw that video. It gave us a little bit of intel. She didn't look very good in the video, and we could see the guys, and I was kind of a little bit surprised at how armed they were. I wasn't figuring them to be as armed as they were.
My first fear was always that I was going to be executed or killed in a car accident or a hand grenade was going to go off in the camp. But my most pervasive fear was that I would wake up being assaulted. I would have nightmares about it. The person who I came to fear the most was actually Jabril. I would often have to try to push him off of me in the middle of the night. And I remember talking to Paul about it, and he, said, I will try to protect you as long as I can, but I don't know how long I can do that. All we knew from our side is that the ransom demand had started at $45 million and that they were not going down very quickly. It was like very small increments. Jabril would come back with information and say, your people are offering $20,000. Now they're at $50,000. Now they're at $100,000. And the gap between $100,000 and $40 million is my lifespan.
I was asked to take part in a call with Jess, and that was the only time that we actually spoke during the whole kidnapping.
The kidnappers were suspicious of Mohammed. They didn't trust him. And so they wanted proof that he was the representative for the family.
Because what they wanted was proof that the person that they were calling, our negotiator, that he was a representative for the families, and they wanted to hear that over and over. And so that was kind of my role during that call, was really to provide that.
Hey, Jess, it's Eric.
Hi. I need you to verify that Mohammed is the one appointed for negotiation for the family. So either of the militia is coming.
Okay.
So that he can hear before he comes. I just want you to know I love you.
I love you too.
I mean, it's just it's a defining moment in one's relationship to have a conversation that may be your last. And you can say so much without ever saying anything at all.
Minute after that call ended, you have no idea whether she will be penalized for something that you said.
You're dealing with people with very serious issues, and they have guns and explosives, and they're angry. The leader of the group, Abdi, he would get in my face constantly and scream, "Where is big money? Where is big money?" He would get so angry when negotiations weren't moving in the right direction. One time he storms over to me. He screams at me to put on my hijab and to follow him out into the desert. And we walk for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know, and it's just me and him. Finally, he stops and he would call me Jesses. He said, "Jesses, your people have 7 days to come up with $18 million. Or I'm gonna cut your head off. And until then, you're not getting any water." And I just remember tears like streaming down my face. And he looked at me with genuine curiosity and was like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "Because I don't want to die." And he just shrugged and walked back to camp.
Negotiated ransoms are always safer than rescues. Your chance of getting the kidnapped victim out alive is much higher in a ransomed negotiation than it is in an all-out rescue.
I actually started thinking that we were never going to get to go. She's still out there. We were all pretty frustrated because I felt like this is something we can do. Why are we even still talking about this ransom?
I didn't even have any clean water to wash with. I have nothing to clean myself with when I'm using the bathroom. Maybe cardboard, or maybe some scraps of newspaper that would come with food that they brought in. And so I developed a urinary tract infection. I have a lot of experience with them, so I knew what was going to happen if I didn't get any medication. It was going to go into a kidney infection, which I'd had before. Like, I need antibiotics. I keep asking for a doctor. There's blood. Like, sometimes my fever's so high, I'm hallucinating. I'm in intense pain. Like, I was starting to get really panicked. I'm going to die out here.
We were getting intelligence that Jessica was suffering from an infection and that it could very well be jeopardizing her life. And that kind of raised the situation to a higher level of concern and attention at the Pentagon. When we were able to locate the camp, I said, it's time to plan an operation to see whether or not we can successfully rescue her. And then the next step after that was to brief the President of the United States, which we did. And President Obama had a lot of questions. And then when the President was satisfied, he basically said, okay, let's do this. Because it was a sensitive operation, we wanted our very best. SEAL Team 6 is the team.
We talked to our families, and my little guy was almost 3, and told him what we were about to do. And there's a girl that's in trouble, and he said, is she like mommy? I was like, she's just like your mommy, but she needs us to go get her, and me and my friends are gonna go and we're gonna save her.
I was just so sick. It was January 24th, and Paul helped me carry my mat out into the field where we were supposed to sleep at night. There are 2 stars that would come out every night, and I named one for my mom, and I would talk to her and tell her about my day, but this night I said, I'm in big trouble here. I think that I'm really, really sick, and I need you to go and tell God that he needs to go and do something and get me out of here, or else, I'm not gonna make it.
We get on the plane and we fly. I've been on a lot of missions, but nothing like this. There's no this big, awesome, whatever hero guy. There's none of that. The ramp opens, and I remember frigid air. We're at 20,000 feet-ish. I plant my feet and dive into the darkness. You know, that's that moment. There's no more rehearsal, right? It's just, this is game on now. And off we go. Several hours. We crept through the night. We were just moving very, very slow. I got to our observation ready point, and we start getting eyes on the camp.
I wake up probably somewhere around midnight, and I'm sick, with the urge to be sick, and I start crawling off my mat. I go to the nearest bush.
And that's when I watched her literally go over, because I'm looking through my scope, so I've got magnification, and I just see her go, and I'm like, man, that's her. There's no question that's her.
And I do what I need to do, and I come back. I roll myself up in my blanket.
We start moving forward. Now we are literally creeping. I mean, I didn't even want to step on a twig and break it. You're walking as quiet as you possibly can. Everything is extremely deliberate.
And then I start hearing this like scratching noise, like maybe small animals or something are coming through the long grass. And I think that maybe they're bugs or like these beetles that would come out at night and like they would get in my hair and in my clothes.
We're moving forward this whole time, and I'm like, okay, now I'm seeing faces. I can make out faces now. And now it's time to engage.
The night erupts into gunfire. And I'm just saying, oh God, oh God, oh God, over and over again, because I'm thinking this must be another group. There was always that risk or that fear that we were going to be kidnapped by another group.
We watched the operation. We watched them approach the camp. We knew that gunfire had taken place. You could see it. I can't tell you the kind of impact that has as you're watching something unfold in real time that could involve people getting killed. That's a very serious moment.
My side is slaying right now, and I still can't find her. I shoot this guy in the shoulder, and he drops on his PK, and I swing over, and there's two guys literally on either side of her. We're moving forward still. Me and probably 2 or 3 other guys just open up on these guys. How we didn't get shot, I have no idea. My teammate yelled her name, and I see her head pop up out of the blanket, and I can see her face.
Then I hear like the voice of a young American man, and he knows my name. And he says, Jessica, we're the American military. You're safe now.
I said, listen, can you walk? And she said, they took my shoes. And I remember, like, it's just these gnarly, thorny things. She was barefooted. I'm like, dude, there's no way she's going to be able to walk through this stuff.
And he literally picks me up, throws me over his shoulder, and takes off running through the desert.
Once we got her and the other hostage, which, you know, one of the other guys had jumped on him, simultaneously, I guess the same kind of thing happened with his side. Where the guy's, there he is, and one of my teammates dives on top of him, calms him down. He ended up right next to us.
My first question is where's Paul? Did Paul make it out? Is he okay? And he's sitting there. He leans over to me and he says, Jessica, do you know who these guys are? And I'm like, no, Paul. And he says, this is SEAL Team 6.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, we have her. She's here, she's alive. And I'm looking all over her face, looking for scratches, bullet holes, anything. We gave him some water, and in comes the Black Hawk.
I hoisted myself onto the helicopter, army crawled on my belly across the floor and slammed myself up against the side of it and just pressed myself up against it away from the open door. As soon as we were, you know, a couple thousand feet up in the air, I was like, wow, okay, I think I am gonna live. Like, I think I'm gonna survive this.
After we knew that Jessica was on board the aircraft and safe, the State of the Union address was taking place.
The word, I think, was passed on to the president that we'd been able to get him. And I remember this distinctly. He was turning to Justice Kennedy to shake his hand. And he suddenly whipped around, turned around quickly, saw me, and said loudly,
"Good job tonight. Good job tonight."
Immediately, there were a lot of co-anchors who were saying, why did the president say that? And then later, obviously, they were told that we had rescued Jessica Buchanan.
The phone rang, and it was a gentleman on the phone, and he said, the next voice that you're going to hear is the President of the United States. And I heard President Obama get on the line, and he said to my dad, I just wanted to let you know that there was a rescue mission and your daughter Jessica was saved, and she is on her way right now to Djibouti, and she is safe.
Your whole life just kind of explodes. I was just running around, you know, screaming out of joy, happiness, seeing my wife for the first time. Yeah, suddenly, you know, life had meaning again.
I was going to do whatever it took to be okay. And I had already made a decision to prioritize therapy and counseling and my mental health whenever I got out. It was shocking to find out about a month after the rescue that I was actually pregnant. And less than a year to the day of the abduction, I had a little baby boy. And I think he saved me a second time. I don't know if I would have been able to recover as well as I have and to heal in the way that I have if it hadn't have been for him. He's 9 now. And then I have a almost 7-year-old little girl. They know about the kidnapping. I used to say that, I used to work in Africa, and one time I got lost, and these men, they came and rescued me.
I feel honored to tell this story. I think it's one of those stories that should be told. And she looks like she's doing amazing.
You send that to everybody else.
I will. Absolutely.
21 of them.
I absolutely will.
You know, we killed the bad guys and rescued the girl. You know what I mean? It's a good story.
It's been a very strange life, but it's a good one.